Hello everybody and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review. In today's review on the Host Productions, we're going to be taking a look at yet another B&M exclusive action figure collector set from the history of the Dalek series. This time round, the Day of the Daleks, also known as Set 7, featuring a new paint application on 2 Daleks, including a Supreme and Drone. The recommended retail for this set is £19.99 and it is available from B&M stores throughout the UK now. The packaging for the history of the Dalek Set 7 remains the same to all of the previous B&M Dalek releases as a part of this series. In the centre, a large preview window giving a good look at the Daleks, along with the stacked Doctor Who logo and a TARDIS graphic. The title of the set and the limited edition sticker. These Daleks are from the first colour Dalek story, Day of the Daleks, from the 3rd Doctor era from 1972. And then flipping around to the back, we have exactly the same details printed once again, along with further text. We have a brief story synopsis for the Day of the Daleks, as well as behind the scenes detailing the changes which have been made to these Dalek props compared to their previous appearances. Continuing the theme of this series, the inside of the box also features a unique diorama from the Day of the Daleks, featuring a number of sci-fi references in the background, which in a collector is very pleased indeed. And if you have enough space on the shelf, this will make for a great backdrop to display the figures within. So here we have the history of the Dalek Set 7 out of the box, and don't they look absolutely superb? So first up we have the Dalek Supreme, originally released as a part of Dalek Collector Set 2 on 2 occasions. Now both of those Daleks originally had quite a number of paint application errors, making it look quite different from the Dalek from the TV serial itself. This Dalek attempts to fix those errors, and we have arguably just as exciting, if not more exciting, a drone Dalek with a lovely gunmetal grey metallic sheen, a Dalek that we've never seen released before as a part of the Character Options line, despite the fact that we've seen so many grey Daleks in the past. And again, this Dalek looks absolutely excellent, and to be honest, I'm tempted to track down another one of these sets in order to add more of these Daleks to the shelf. So starting off with the gold Dalek, as he is the Supreme after all, I think this Dalek is most certainly for those fans who love TV accuracy. This is for us who've had the regular Supreme Dalek from Day of the Daleks on our shelves for many years, have kind of been annoyed by that black variation of the neck bin. Now we finally have a more correct version, of course with that much shinier gold paint being used, and generally this looks much better than the original release, so if you are a fan of accuracy, this is most certainly a Dalek for you. We are now moving into the 70s Dalek stories, and as a result that thinner fender has now been replaced with the 2-stack variation. Now what I really like about this Dalek in particular is that we in fact have a golden trim running all the way around the fender, linking to the skirt of the Dalek in exactly the same shade of gold, and this looks really cool and unique indeed. Another thing that I really like about this design is we have 2 forms of plastic being used. So the top half of the fender is in fact a matte black sculpted plastic, and then this bottom section is a glossy black, which can also be seen on the base as well, with the caster and the wheels. Now this glossy piece kind of represents the material that is used to hide the wheels and the operator's feet within the story itself, and this is also used on the shiny drone Dalek of the set, which is very cool indeed. As we take a closer look at the Dalek Skirt, of course all of the hemispheres have been painted a rather lovely glossy black. This most certainly stands out on that gold of the skirt. I'm happy to report that the paint on this seems to be rather crisp and precise, although I do recommend going into store and actually checking your Daleks prior to purchase in order to avoid paint leak. As we move up to the Dalek's midsection, we usual solar slat design with of course the mesh integrated throughout. Each individual solar slat has the rivets sculpted within this, although unlike some of the previous Dalek releases we don't have any additional wash applied over the top to emphasise the mesh or anything like that. This is simply just one solid gold, and the same can be said for the base underneath as well. Basically everything about this Dalek is gold, and we do of course have the usual sculpting of this circular piece in the middle. Of course, no Dalek will be complete without some weaponry. The sculpting of the gun is of course the 70s design, which does of course ever so slightly bend in at the middle. This has been painted a lovely gold, and the same can be said for the board joint as well. And as for the manipulator arm, this is the same sculpt as always. The ending sucker piece has been given a lovely glossy black finish, and this time round, to note, in fact the board joint is a silver, very much like the arm itself, which is different to the original release. And then we move up to what is essentially the main selling point of this Dalek, and it's the fact that the neck bin now features less paint application details. This is now entirely gold. Of course, it is exactly the same sculpt to usual, so we have the discs there in the middle, we have the lovely mesh texturing and the pulls in between. All of these neatly line up. However, this is a Dalek unlike others, for it is unusually gold. Of course, this is something that wasn't featured on the original, and is nice. It's nice to see a Dalek that finally is more accurate to the one seen throughout the story. Dome of the Dalek now, surprise surprise, it's gold, very much like the rest of this Dalek. Again, same details to usual, and of course we have the dome lights there at the very top, and this time we do of course use the Mini Cooper ridged design, very much like the second re-release of the Supreme Dalek from Dalek Collector Set 2. The eye stalk itself has been given some really lovely paint application actually. At the base you have a little bit of gold, and then the rod itself has been given a splash of silver, complete with the discs in the middle. Again, this is the separated disc sculpt, lovely lighter blue paint application on this. The end of the Dalek eye stalk has of course been painted a lovely glossy black, although in the middle we have a small white paint application, complete with a black pupil. Moving back down to Hosty HQ in order to take a look at the previous Dalek releases. Due to the distribution delays of the current B&M 2021 run, this comparison has been recorded in advance. Now, as a comparison to the original version, changes which have been made are very obvious indeed. Of course, we have that finish which has been used. The gold is now much more metallic and generally more accurate to the story. And then we also have the midsection, which is of course also on the original release, that black design. Of course, this is now all gold on the latest version, and then the other differences are of course self-explanatory. I do believe we have a number of paint application changes in the weaponry as well as on the eye stalks. So in summary, for the Supreme Dalek, I love it. I think that if you have the original version, I think there is enough paint application changes on this release which also make it more TV accurate to justify a second purchase. If you don't have the original version, then again, this is definitely a Dalek that I recommend adding to your collection, especially if you like gold Daleks, because this one is very pretty indeed and will look excellent on the shelf alongside some darker grey Daleks, which hopefully will be released in the future. So now let's take a look at the Day of the Daleks Drone Dalek. Now sorry guys, I know that we've seen a lot of darker grey Dalek releases over the past few years, but I'm about to say that this is an essential purchase. Yes, it is another grey Dalek, yes it does look kind of similar to the previous releases, but god is it such a brilliant Dalek variant. The selling point of this Dalek is without a doubt the paint application finish on the vast majority of the Dalek's body. Very much like the Supreme Dalek, we have this lovely metallic paint application which has been used, which as you can see under the studio lights, the light is quite literally bouncing off this Dalek, and as a result it makes this Dalek armour look like a tank. It looks menacing and threatening, unlike some of the previous grey Daleks that we've seen, where the matte grey that has been used simply isn't as effective. It's one that we've wanted for many years. If you get the opportunity to purchase this set and you like classic Daleks, this one is a must. As we mentioned earlier, the fender on the Drone Dalek is the 2-stack variation, and again I love the details of the matte black plastic section and the glossy black. Very much like the Supreme Dalek, the hemispheres on the drone are painted a lovely glossy black. Admittedly, due to the darker grey underneath, these hemispheres don't in fact stand out as much, although it still looks very cool indeed. Along with the usual quality control on the paint on the hemispheres, I definitely recommend checking this seam down the middle at the very front to ensure that your Dalek has been glued together correctly prior to purchase. In keeping with the design of the Supreme, we basically have one colour being used for the vast majority of the Dalek's body, and therefore the slats and mesh in between this have also been painted that lovely metallic darker grey. Although do note, due to this being one colour, we don't have that silvery wash that usually applies in between the solar slats, something of which that has been present on previous grey Daleks. The ball joint and gun of the Dalek basically blend in with the rest of the Dalek body, also being painted that metallic darker grey, and again this is the 70s sculpt being bent in slightly at the middle. Unlike other Dalek releases, this time round the manipulator arm actually stands out quite a lot, because it's basically the only thing on the Dalek's body that isn't the metallic darker grey. So the ball joint and the manipulator arm rod have been painted a lovely metallic-y shiny silver, and of course we have the sucker at the end, which is the usual glossy black. The neck bin of the Dalek presents the same lovely details to usual, including the various different rods and the mesh texturing, and again this is the darker metallic grey. The metallic darker grey really complements the domed nature of the top of the Dalek's head as the light really bounces off this. The dome lights, again this is the Mini Cooper rigid design, sculpted in a transparent plastic. As for the eye stalk, again much like the Supreme, we have that darker base as well as the silver highlight on the main rod itself, and the discs have been painted a lighter baby blue. Something that I also find really cool about this Dalek is due to having a mostly very dark grey body, the pupil at the end of the eye stalk really stands out, that white glow with the piercing black dot in the middle. It looks very menacing indeed. The drone Dalek within the collector set does feature a number of similarities to some of the previous Daleks, of course most notably Dalek Collector Set 1, Genesis of the Daleks, and the SFX Daleks range, Planet of the Daleks Dalek. However, it does bear the most similarities to this one here, but is still quite different with that lovely metallic finish over the top. This one being rather matte, and this one being kind of glossy, although I think that is down to the plastic used. This one has a 2-stack fender, very much like this latest version. This one is simply the 1-stack design. The hemispheres are the glossy black, much like this latest version, although on this version here we do have the inclusion of the bronzeman gun, which is not present on this latest one, and then we also have the detailing on these slats, which is also not present on this latest version, following a very similar design to this one here, where we have slats and gun all painted the same colour. Of course, the midsection on both of the Daleks feature that black base, which isn't present on this latest version, again carrying out the same gunmetal grey design, and then we have the ridged bulbs on this one, which is present on the 2021 variation, and not the smooth variation of Dalek Collector Set 1. And finally, of course, we have the eye stalk, which again features a number of differences compared to that of this latest release, being the stumpier 70s design with the silver highlight. So in conclusion, for the drone Dalek, it's bloody lovely, isn't it? Although at the same time, it's not much, because the vast majority of Daleks, even the 60s ones, kind of have designs split throughout. You have the silver and blue on the hemispheres, and a little bit of silvery detailing on the mesh, then even different coloured dome lights and eye stalk variations. This Dalek is essentially one colour throughout, with a little bit of black in there, and the silver manipulator arm, and that is it. But that's what makes this Dalek effective and menacing. It's different to previous Dalek releases, and will look excellent on the shelf alongside other grey Daleks. So in conclusion, for the history of the Dalek Set 7, I'm trying to figure out in my mind if the excitement surrounding this set is either because these are two really lovely Dalek variants with some brilliant additions compared to their previous counterparts, or the fact that this is the first Daleks that we've seen as a part of the B&M series so far, not to be from 60s Doctor Who, and ultimately not to be for the most part silver and blue. And I think it is a little bit of both. I think that if you're a classic Doctor Who action figure collector, this is an essential box set, because both of the Daleks within this set have unique additions to them, which will make them excellent for your Dalek collection. But equally for those of you who've been collecting this series over the past few years, having not got the original versions, again, this is a really lovely set with two considerably unique Daleks, because the Supreme Dalek has very little appearances beyond the Day of the Daleks, and as for the drone Dalek, I think that the next grey Daleks we're going to see a part of the history of the Dalek series are most certainly not going to look like this. I think we're going to probably return to a more matte grey design. So overall for this set, I most certainly recommend it because it features two really lovely Daleks. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on The Host Productions for regular Doctor Who content, from audio drama reviews, product reviews, and of course much more. And on that note, have a nice day, and I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.